Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be chatting about the Pokemon Company closing down certain leagues, potentially, about the details of that story. We'll talk about Pokemon League Cups coming back in full force, players competing, players winning, and all the things going along with that. We'll, of course, have everyone's favorite segment, Guess That Flavor Text. And we'll also close out the episode by talking about some Latin America special events, new Pokemon tournaments that were just recently announced coming up in May, and a little bit of the discussion that kind of always seems to happen around these special event tournaments. All that and more on this week's episode of Uncommon Energy. My name is Chip Ritchie. A little hoarse this week. I was a little sick this past week, but I'm joined here, as always, by my co-host, who I might be leaning on to talk a little bit more than normal this week, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How are we doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I had a pretty bland week this week around. No competitions, no tournaments. There was some league cups pretty nearby, but I didn't go to them. Well, they weren't like that nearby. I was over in Fresno, I believe. So I think that's like 2 hours away. I'll go to the regional in Fresno, but I'm not going to go to Fresno for league cups and league challenges. I've made this statement multiple times already. I'm not going to go to any cups or challenges this season. Except there's like one shop that's like 15 minutes away from me. I think that if they have cups or
You're
challenges,
not
maybe I'd
going
go to
out
that.
of
But
your way to
yeah,
grind
yeah,
these
yeah.
tournaments. Like you'll go to
So
your locals, but you're not going to go crazy.
yeah. So currently don't plan to go any. Haven't gone to any yet. But yeah, pretty bland weekend besides that. Did some streaming, made some videos. Same old for me. What about you, Chip? Besides being sick, did you do anything exciting?
Yeah, I mean this past weekend. So like I was kind of sick like the end of last week, but and this like grossness in my throat is just kind of getting over the sickness. But um so in my family, my wife, my sister-in-law, my mom, and my dad, all four have a birthday within like 10 days of each other. So every year we just kind of do this like big get together birthday dinner. So we did that this weekend. All got together, hung out, had some good family time, celebrated everyone's birthday, had some cupcakes, some Mexican food. It was all good. And yeah, good times with the family, but not too much else going on. I'm actually going to a league cup this weekend. Unlike Azul, I am going to drive to a league cup, which is kind of interesting because like I don't really have anything to play for. Like, I'm not playing for a World's Invite. I just kind of want to go play Pokemon, right? Azul's been grinding these tournaments all season long. He's looking for any excuse to not have to go travel to play Pokemon, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to going to a League Cup this weekend, checking it out. I have not played a League Cup since like February of 2020, I don't think. So, yeah, really looking forward to getting out there playing at locals. It's pretty much my only chance to play Pokemon like with a competitive sense these days is at locals. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Going out to a cup this coming weekend.
Well, I wish you best of luck, Chip, in your League Cup ventures. And that's where we're going to start off here today. Going to be talking about, well, actually, no, we're not talking about League Cups first. We're talking about leagues, actually, first. Specifically, um, or to start with, I guess we should go over what is a Pokemon League for anyone who's new to the scene. But it's basically, a time in a day, once a week, usually, where just Pokemon players get together and play Pokemon. The leagues are put on by the organizer of the league, and then like Pokemon, you like set up your league through Pokemon, and then like Pokemon sends the league organizers like products and stuff like
Like
that to
some
give.
promos and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like there's league promos. Like I'm sure some of you have seen or have some like the Battle VIP. Are the Battle VIP passes are league promos, right? I think they are. They have the stamp.
Yeah. So for a long time, they just gave like league promos to give out at league, and then like promos to give out at league cups and league challenges. And then recently, within just the past year, they started doing the prize packs, which are kind of similar to the
Packs.
pop
We used to have,
packs
yeah.
from way back in the day, the organized
I
play
still have some
packs.
of those. I still got a couple. I don't think I have the big one. I think Pop
The
Pack
one with the
6 or something.
Umbreon and Espeon
Yeah, I
Gold
don't have
Star.
that one. I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
like 8 or 9 or something, the ones that came out a little bit later. So I still have some of those, but yeah, they're not the really expensive ones. But yeah, they used to have it's like a 3 card pack,
Yeah.
and sometimes there'd be like 1 or 2 playable cards. Like I think the ones that I have, there's like the Gallade that is in Guardy Gallade, I think is in the
Mhm.
Series 9, Series 8. But yeah, now they have the prize packs, which I've seen. What kind of cards can you even get in those? I haven't seen those at all.
Yeah, no,
Like, I haven't seen where you get
you
them.
can get great cards in them. You can get like
Why is it $18? Why is that?
This is just people reselling them, man. People have been reselling because there's a Charizard in it, dude.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, yeah, but you can get good card. You can get, like I'm gonna pull up eBay here. I'm not sharing my screen yet. I'm gonna find a good thing and pull it up. It is a little unfortunate because people do, like, kinda I think some leagues and stores kinda keep the products for themselves and sell them as opposed to giving them to the players like they should, but, yeah, they come with, I think, 5 cards in the pack. One of the cards has, like, a chance to be hollow, and you can get an ultra rare in it. You can get, like, an Arceus V or an Arceus V-Star even potentially in the pack.
Okay, okay.
So you can get really good cards, and it's, so, like, they're on the 2nd wave of organized play packs, I think, right now.
The prize
Um,
packs too.
yeah, um, and, like, in the 1st one, I know you could get, like, some of the older staples, like, cards like, Ordinary Rod and, um Scoop Up Net, like these cards that were from like the earlier part of Sword and Shield. So it's kind of a way for like these um for players at these stores to get some of these things that have not been out for a while. Um I can't remember what they're called. I'm searching Pokemon organized play packs, but
Check on Poke Beach. I think there was like something on the Poke Beach recently.
it's
Play
Play
Pokemon
Pokemon Prize Pack is
prize
what it's
pack.
called. Play Pokemon
Okay.
Prize Pack.
What was
But
I gonna
yeah,
say?
you can get so and then they're on season 2 now, which I think has, still some of the same cards, but it's like mostly cards that are in the current rotation, right? So like stuff like Ordinary Route, Scoop and Net rotated out, so they're not giving out series 1 anymore. They're giving out packs that include cards from like the E block onwards. So like I think
Yeah.
maybe like Clara and stuff like that is in there.
Is that where you get the Battle VIP pass with the stamp, or is that the league
Yes,
promo?
yes. No, it's from the packs. It's from the packs. They don't
Oh,
do
so they
promos
have the
anymore.
stamps? Oh, so they
There's
don't do
no
promos, they just do
promos.
prize
Yeah.
packs?
Yeah, they just
Okay.
do the
So
prize
everything
packs.
is are all the cards stamped then?
Yes, they're
The
all stamped, but only I think 1, maybe 2 can be hollow. Um,
Okay.
I got one time I went to a locals not too long ago, and I got given one. I pulled a hollow air balloon, I think, which is kinda cool, honestly. I mean, it's cool that, like, they're
Does that one have
making
the stamp?
unique. Yeah, yeah, so they have the stamp in the corner. I think I have it, or
So
one
wait,
of the
then, like,
cards at
if you get,
least.
like, an Arceus V or V-Star to there, will it also have the stamp?
Yes, yes, they
Oh,
have the stamp
really?
on them. Yeah, it's really
Interesting.
cool. So here, I've got a Clara
I haven't
here.
seen
This
any
is
of
a
those. I've only seen
non-hollow
the Battle
one.
VIP passes.
This is a
Oh, and it's
non-hollow
got the
one.
stamp, yeah.
It's got the little stamp on it. But yeah, there's basic energy as well that you can get that are hollow that have the stamp on them. So every card in the pack has the stamp on it, which is cool.
Interesting. That's
And
cool.
then there's a couple of them that have a chance to be hollow. And I think there's like hollow and non-hollow versions of all of them.
Mhm.
Um I've got just like absolute mad stacks of cards on my desk right now, so it's like kind of hard for me to I'm not the most organized when it comes to these things. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so here you go. I've got a couple here that I can show for anyone watching the YouTube video. I've got a stamped ordinary rod. I actually bought these at a regionals for my GLC decks, but so it's an ordinary rod that's hollow. It's got the little stamp on it, and then I bought a capture energy, which I'm a fan of these because they're like it looks like a mirror, like the old mirror
Oh,
foils,
yeah.
which I'm a
Definitely a
fan of, and
cleaner
they don't make
hollow.
them like that anymore. But it's got
Yeah.
the little stamp, and it's reverse hollow pretty much. So yeah, I mean, it's like a cool thing that they've been doing the last year and a half or so. Year, I think. I think it's been about a year that they've been doing it, where you can get these. Now, some people do take them and sell them. Some people take them and sell them after they've won them at their store. Some people who run the leagues take them and sell them, and that's maybe one of my theories as to what's maybe happening here. But the main gist of this, what we're talking about, besides like just what a Pokemon League is a lot of people who run leagues this weekend. So Pokemon Leagues oftentimes take place inside card shops, but not that's not the only place they can happen. Um, they'll happen sometimes at libraries and coffee shops and like in the student unions and stuff at college campuses and things like that. But recently, a lot of Pokemon League organizers have been getting emails from the Pokemon Company saying that, um, with I'll just read the email. Pretty much over the last few years of participation in the organized play program has grown and changed, and we have evolved to meet the needs of our growing communities. This has included a focus on retail venues and local game stores. As such, we are no longer able to support leagues hosted at venues that do not meet our current retail venue requirements. And then I'll link to that. As of today, leagues located at non retail venues we'll need to begin finding a new league venue that meets our retail venue requirements. Leagues will have until May 31st to find a new retail venue in their community to host their league. On May 31st, if you are not able to find a new venue to host your league, we will close your league. And you are welcome to apply for a new league when you find a venue that meets our retail venue requirements. So, yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of a bummer to see. I saw this from a couple of people over the weekend, people who run leagues on like various college campuses, one from Ohio State and one from MIT specifically, were the two that I saw. And yeah, it's just a bummer, right? Like it's people wanting to get out and get together and play the game, um, and I think it makes sense, right? Like I shouldn't say that. I think like Pokemon would not just make this decision just because, right? Someone at Pokemon like had like there's been a discussion about this. I'm sure there's been dozens of meetings about this, right? People and eventually led to them coming to this decision that they want to move away from the leagues that are not at retail locations and focus on retail locations. And they're not just like straight up closing these locations, these leagues down. It very much does detail in this email that they want to give these places an opportunity to find a retail location to host their league. But not everywhere that runs a league like this out of a student union or out of a library or something like that. Not all of these places have card shops to go to.
And that's basically what I didn't actually ever read the full email, I'm not gonna lie. So it does say retail venue requirement. So does it just have to be a place that sells Pokemon cards? Is that like a requirement for a retail venue?
Yeah,
Like,
I actually am not 100% sure, and I don't know if it's publicly um,
yeah, I can't click found
available.
here on the tweet image, unfortunately. But I would assume that has to be part of it, right? It has to be like somewhere that sells Pokemon cards, I feel like. And maybe that's more of the reason that they're doing it than, I mean, you could say they're trying to support local game stores, which they definitely will in this way. I don't think it has
Yeah,
anything to do with like the I feel like after reading this email, I don't think it has anything to do with really like the potential for league organizers to be getting the product that they're supposed to give to the people who participate in the league and then selling it. I don't think that's like that is anything because like people do that with game stores anyways as well, right? It doesn't matter if you're someone running it on a college campus or at a game store. There's a potential for people to take the league promos or the league packs now, whatever, and then keep them and sell them. If not all of them, some of them. And to be honest, like I have no, like I don't know if you keep if you don't get rid of all of your league packs at the end of it all. If you're someone who's running a league, I mean, I don't know what are you supposed to do with them anyways. Are you allowed to keep them?
give
Like,
them
what even
keep giving
happens to
them
them?
away, keep giving them
Give them
away,
away? Is
or
that
I
what you're
think you're
supposed to
supposed to
do?
send them back as well if you're like ultimately don't have anything.
Okay.
Um, But, yeah, so on Pokemon's website, they actually do detail,
Oh, we do have it.
what it takes for, what their retail program store requirement checklist, and it's pretty much just have a business address, business contact, registration, like a business license, a cashier's desk, product shelving, store window, exterior signage, open to the public during regular daytime hours, and sells
Yeah.
Pokemon TCG booster packs from recent or older expansions.
Why does it? Why does it specify? It says like sell Pokemon TCG booster packs from recent or older. So it doesn't have to be recent. It doesn't have to be older. It just needs Pokemon TCG booster packs.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what it sounds like. It's like sounds like that's like the main point. You have to be a store that sells Pokemon cards. So theoretically, you could run a league at Target.
yeah, theoretically,
Yeah,
right?
theoretically, use the. I mean, you have
I've,
to get approval from the Target, but
I
like, yeah,
know
that's
there's a
basically all you need.
league there was a league at least for a while, I don't know if they still run it. There was a league in Charlotte in North Carolina that ran out of a GameStop. I don't know if they still do that, but I saw pictures on, like, our local Carolina Pokemon Facebook groups of, like, people crowded around in a GameStop with, like, these like, the like, folding tables all pulled out and stuff. Um but yeah, I don't know. So I think there's like parts of this that make sense. Obviously, I think it's good that Pokemon is doing something to more incentivize and more support local game stores. That's awesome, right? Local game stores is a business that's constantly struggling, right?
Yeah.
Most of the people who run local game stores are doing it more as a passion project than as a way to make money. They're doing it because they love their local communities. People who run local card shops are not rich, right? Uh, they're doing it for the love of the game for the most part. So I think it's great that Pokemon's trying to give more incentive to people to go to these locations, but not every area has a location, right? a card
Yeah.
shop to go to, and that's kind of the biggest thing. So, like, I mean, one of the first leagues that I ever went to was at a library in Easley, South Carolina, and I think for a long time that league was one of the biggest leagues on the East Coast. It met every single Wednesday night when I started going there, and it was like 70 to 80
Oh
people
my
there
gosh,
every
really?
single Wednesday night. Yeah, yeah, it was ridiculous. And I think like I was going there at a time where it was like a little bit of a lull. Like I'd heard stories of there being 100 people, and there's a lot of kids there, but there's also a lot of like competitive players there. Um, and that's where I made a lot of my friends that I know that like from like the South Carolina area when I went to school down there. Like I people I still talk to at tournaments today whenever I see them. That I met at the Easley Pokemon League in the library. Um,
Yeah, that
so I
kinda
don't know.
sucks.
Yeah,
The only leagues I've ever been to were at card shops, I for going to, like, actual league. Um, um, what was I gonna say? I did go to the MIT league. I did go to their cups and challenges, when I lived back in, Massachusetts. It was a little while ago, but, yeah, like, I mean, it does kinda feel like it sucks. The idea that I mean, yeah, like I mentioned that, you could theoretically run a league at Target, it sounds like, but yeah, this will definitely be pushing for more leagues to be ran at card stores as opposed to in libraries or on college campuses or whatever. Which
yeah,
is, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like any card shop that would. It always kind of felt like all the card shops when I lived in Massachusetts, like every card shop that could run that was like existed basically as far as I knew, like ran a league. Anyways, like they all had a Pokemon League, and then it's also MIT also had a Pokemon League. And it's like MIT wasn't super far from one of the card shops, if I remember correctly, that ran a league.
yeah.
But like it wasn't like it didn't feel like it was like taking away from that, I guess. I don't know. So it feels like there is room to do both, ideally. And it does sound like and it does seem like there'd be quite a few people who no longer, who wouldn't have even played the game if it wasn't for,
Yeah.
these leagues. So that's gonna kind of suck to probably lose out on that potential growth right there.
Yeah, the college campus one specifically, like, I've always heard people say, like, college is the time in your life where you'll have the most free time that you'll have for the rest of your life. It might not feel like it in the moment because 'cause you're still going to classes, you still have, like, lots of homework and stuff, but now looking back on it, that in reality was, like, is the truth, right? And, you're not
Yeah.
working
Well,
like a regular job, you have,
to be
like,
able to run a
15-ish hours of classes and stuff, right? But
to be able to run a challenge or a cup, you have to have league at your store, right? Like, it's a build-up
yes,
process?
yes,
You can't
yeah,
just run it, yeah, so, like, that's why, like, every store that I can think of that existed in, like, the Massachusetts area had cups and challenges, which means they all had to have league, and then it's, like, also the MIT had league as well. So, yeah, I don't know, it just feels weird. It feels like an unnecessary thing to do, especially because I feel like the college campus ones are, like, probably some of the best
yeah,
ones for getting those people into the game. Because, like you said, you got that free time,
yeah,
Pokemon League, okay, why not, right? Like, why
and
not go
it's
try
like
that on a Friday night or whatever?
yeah, and even if there's a card shop that's 10 minutes away, that's, like, pretty close, right? Like, not everyone who's on a college campus has a car necessarily, but, like, they can take a 5-minute walk to the student union to go,
Yeah,
and participate in their Pokemon night. And what I think will happen with a lot of these places is, like, the libraries out there and the college campuses, like, they'll probably those people who were committed to their local communities, they will probably still run little Pokemon nights and stuff, right? Have, like, a Pokemon
yeah.
meetup, a Pokemon group or whatever, but they just won't be supported by the Pokemon company anymore, which I think is a shame and a bit of a missed opportunity. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that there are people getting together and enjoying playing Pokemon, which is not something that you need support from the Pokemon company in order to be able to do. Um,
It's nice if you have it.
it definitely is. It definitely is, and I think it would be preferable to have it, right? But yeah, it's definitely a bit of a bummer to see this, but at the same time, like I said, I think, like, this decision was probably not something that was just made easily. This has to be in line with some sort of vision or direction that someone, has for the future of Pokemon organized play tournaments. Maybe it is as simple as wanting to emphasize being able to be at a place that sells Pokemon packs, right?
Yeah.
Drive sales, which I think that's a little bit of a bummer if that is really the true motivation. I would like to think it's maybe more in hopes of better supporting their local game stores, but I just think it would be nice if there was some alternative option, like, the local store has their league, and then also the library or the college campus has their league too.
Yeah, that would be kinda cool. Yeah, I just feel like are you even selling that many more Pokemon TCG booster packs if that's, like, the outcome? I don't think so. I don't think you're selling that much more
Yeah.
Pokemon, bro. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think it's gonna,
can't
like,
yeah.
drive up sales that much. Unless this is like one of many little things Pokemon's going out of their way to do to try and push sales up, right? This is just like part of the part of the massive phone book of
One step
uh
in the process.
yeah, one step in the process. Actually, with you mentioning and we talked about this a little bit earlier, with you mentioning that your first league was at a library. It made me think about like what are the weirdest places that people have played uh cups or challenges or had league, because we also saw there was a picture tweeted out from
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Hedrick versus Braden Elford. So two regional champions playing against each other in a parking lot because the store had closed. And at first, when I saw this image, you have it pulled up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when I first saw this image, I thought they were playing. I thought I was like, I was like, it's so sunny outside. I don't. What time did the store close? But then I realized that they're actually sitting under a light post, and it's
Yeah.
night, and they're in a parking lot because I saw the shadow from the light post, and I realized, wait, it's actually dark out. Yeah, when I first saw the image, I was like, it's so light out. Why are they playing it? Why is the store closed?
Yeah, yeah, this picture is super sick. Yeah, and this is like this really makes you feel like local tournaments are back, you know? This
Yeah,
happens I feel like I see this happen every single weekend. Someone will tweet a picture of something like this. Maybe not playing in the parking lot specifically, but playing at like a nearby shop or something that because like the trading card store that the tournament was at had to close.
yeah,
But the tournament has to complete, so you go play next door at where, you know, whatever the option is. But for these guys, it seems like the option was to just squat it down in the parking lot real quick and try to finish their game. Yeah,
yeah. I've
pretty
gone
funny to
to
see.
I think I've seen a picture before of people playing on, like, the hood of a car. For me personally, I wasn't in the finals, but a friend was in the finals, so we had to go over to a McDonald's, and then for me personally, at one time I had to play in, and this was actually at this one of the shops back in, Massachusetts. The shop closed, so I was actually playing against Sam Chen, so we had to go play the finals at a boba tea shop that was, like, a block away. So we couldn't finish playing in the shop, so we went and played at a boba tea shop, that was nearby. We were playing. Well, I was playing Zoro. I think I was playing.
It
There's a
looks like
Wimpod on the
Zoroark
bench, so it's
Decidueye.
yeah. No, It's
Oh,
Zoro
Pod.
Pod
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah.
Guardy Gallade. So that was a fun time. But yeah, that comes up actually like pretty often, for sure. So I'm curious in the comment section. Let us know what is the weirdest place that you played a cup, played a challenge, or just had league. Because I've never heard of a league in a library before until Chip mentioned to me. Actually, one time I also played a cup. Well, the weird was yeah, the one time I played a cup was probably the weirdest one. It was like an outside in like this like is a gazebo the thing I'm thinking of? But it's not like a gazebo. It's like a big gazebo. It's like a glass.
Like
It's
a
an outdoor, like
greenhouse,
yeah, it wasn't like meant to like heat up, but it was kind of like an outside. There was like a fire pit in the middle of it.
like a
The
terrarium or something.
store that the shop was like
That's not a
being run
word.
for was just closed. The store wasn't even open, so we didn't go to the store at all. We just played outside at the out. It wasn't. It was like enclosed, kind of, but like most of the glass panels were open. It was weird. I can't
Like a
explain it.
shelter.
It was like well no, it was like supposed to be like one of those things like where like you have if you have an like an outdoor party, you would have it in there, right? That would be like
Yeah, sure.
because like in the middle of it there was like a fireplace pit thing. So yeah, that's like the weirdest place I think I've ever played a cup or a challenge. But if you have any other weird tales, let us know in the comment sections down below.
Yeah, I played a cup that it's at a smaller store that doesn't have like a ton of table space. And so in order to make more room, they would have half the tournament would play in the store, and then like the bottom tables played across the parking lot. It's like in a little shopping mall area. It's across the parking lot in a Japanese restaurant. Like the other they had like an agreement with like the restaurant. So like literally like 15 to 20 people were playing in the store, and then 15 to 20 people are playing in the in the Japanese restaurant. So it was like kind of a joke, like, you know, if you're not doing good, you're having to go go
Go
play
over to the
over in the
Japanese restaurant.
Japanese shop, yeah,
It
or
actually
in the
reminds me of a time, there was a cup. It was probably a cup because there's so many people, but there was people. We had people playing outside of the store. There was just like out of the back door. There was like four tables set up outside for people to play on.
yeah.
The bottom tables. That's where the bottom tables were playing.
I
Was
remember playing
outside.
I started playing the last year of the state championship tournaments.
Yeah.
And so I went to North Carolina States, and it was in a hotel, like in a like conference. Like they had a big like hall rented out for it, but there was like over 100 people registered for it, and they did not have enough tables. And so the first round or first 2 rounds, people were having to play sitting, like, crisscross applesauce on the floor. Like, is literally the only option for round 1 to get started and for them to, like, keep the tournament moving. People literally had to just sit on the floor and play. They got it sorted out by round 2. They had people playing, like, in the lobby area of the hotel, like, sectioned off a few tables, but, yeah, I've had some funny ones, and I've been not a tournament, but I have been to a Pokemon League that met at a McDonald's, and it was it was in the
Did you have
time
to buy
frame.
something? Like, did you or
Nope.
could people just go in and sit?
Just roll up. There was a section of tables there. There was about so this was like right when I started playing Pokemon, and I was super into it, and I was just looking for an excuse to go play Pokemon. And it was actually I was in school at Clemson, and I was visiting my wife Brooke, or my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, who went to school here in Raleigh. And I was looking at the event locator. I was coming to visit for a weekend. I was looking at the event locator. I saw this Pokemon League. I was like, it meets at a McDonald's. Okay, sure. I just want to go play Pokemon. And I rolled up, and besides the league leader, I was absolutely the oldest person there. It was like the one person running the league and then like 4 or 5 kids. And so it was literally just me, the league leader at the McDonald's, playing Pokemon against a bunch of kids who were just trying to like swap cards back and forth pretty much. But it was an interesting experience for sure.
The McDonald's.
The
Um,
McDonald's Pokemon League in North Carolina. I think that league still meets, by the way. So, I guess they probably won't be for long, but I think as of now they do still meet.
yeah. Well, all they have to do is convince the McDonald's to sell
Pokemon
Pokemon
packs.
TC. Well,
Hey,
actually,
listen, the Happy
the
Meals,
Happy Meals
bro.
would that count? Does that count?
It only
They have to,
comes around
yeah,
like once a year though, so
yeah. So they can meet for like a month or whatever.
out of the year.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Um, from there, we wanted to talk a little bit, still kind of staying on the league stuff, cups, challenges. Just talk about cups a little bit more in general. I guess challenges as well. Kind of prepping for a local tournament versus a regional, and then also kind of talk about best out of three, best of one. We've been seeing that come up a little bit. Maybe we should just start there. Let's talk about best 2 out of 3 versus best of one. I think best 2 out of 3 local tournaments, challenges, cups are terrible. I think it is literally awful. I also think, this is actually weird. Back when I started playing cups and challenges, well, challenges didn't really exist. It was cities and battle roads. That stuff started at like 8, 9 a.m. I felt like it started super early. Like 9 a.m. was like the latest uh, battle roads or cities would start. But I feel like once cups and challenges came around, they started, or even a little bit after that, like the 2015 season, when I feel like a lot more people started running cups and challenges when Pokemon just started kind of to blow up. 2015, 2016, whatever the first big
Yeah,
year
that was
was for
2016.
payout. Yeah.
The year
I
Pokemon Go came out.
Yeah, it feels like cups and challenges started starting at like 11 a.m., 12. I feel like they just starting so much later than they used to back in the day. And Chip wouldn't know about that because Chip started playing around that time. But anyone in the comment section, let me know. Like for anyone who, some of the more old heads like me, like is it just me or did cups and challenges before 2016 and battle roads and cities didn't they used to all start at like 9 a.m. or am I just kind of tripping? But I feel like I was getting up super early every single time to go to those things.
Well, I feel like part of that is just how things used to be run, right? So a long time ago, back then in that time frame, um, league battle roads and city championships were not necessarily run by the store. They were run by a tournament organizer who would like for that area organize like a bunch of the tournaments, right?
Oh, is that how it used to work? I don't
Yeah,
even remember.
yeah. So it used to work where one person, like, organized a bunch of them, and it's
That
usually
makes
someone who's,
sense
like,
because they were,
more experienced with kind of, like, just
yeah.
how the Pokemon stuff works, right? They would organize the tournaments, they would try to schedule them so they didn't overlap, right? But then over the years, we've moved into this situation where now each individual store kinda has their own say on when they want their events to be, when they want them to start,
Yeah,
and so now a big thing we're seeing is,
is people playing in
um
parking lots because they take
people
too
play
long.
they don't realize how long the tournament's gonna take necessarily.
Yeah,
Another thing that I've seen happen a bunch is tournaments being scheduled that overlap with each other. Like, I've got 2 there's really only 2 stores in kind of the nearby area that run cups, and they
yeah.
scheduled their cups on the same day.
Oh
Like,
my gosh,
yep.
that's so bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah, that's actually
Um
one thing, like, in this area and I never went to really I've never gone to anything locally here in California, but Lorelai actually was, like, the person who, like, kept everyone schedules in order and made sure that no one's cups and challenges were on the same day or something like that. Yeah, there's got to be some communication. Like
It's
if you're in a local area and some stores keep scheduling things on the same day, tell them to get in touch with each other, or maybe somebody needs to step up and be that kind of person and and talk to both stores. You know, because the tournament organizer is the person who does it anyways, right? Who runs the.
Yeah,
But
but
sometimes the
each
tournament
store
organizer
now
is the
now
store
each
owner is
store
sometimes the
has
league
their
owner.
own, like, Pokemon person most of the
Yeah.
time,
So
right?
like, yeah, if you're a player there and that's like frustrating for you, because that sounds annoying to me. Not being able to go, if you're someone who's going to cups and challenges and not being able to go to like your two stores cups or challenges because they're on the same day every time, makes just ask the store people to talk to each other. Or,
Yeah.
you be that if someone wants to step up and be that person and be like, hey, I'll get their information on when they want to run their stuff. Let me get yours. And then we can like, so we can get, and I'm sure the store owners want more players at both their events, right?
Yep.
They want
Yep.
people buying cards, buying sleeves, buying the snacks, whatever it might be. The stores want the more people there as well. So, um, yeah, definitely that always sucks.
That's oftentimes what it takes though, is it takes a person from the community being willing to, like, step up and try to, like, kinda get things to come to a head and get things
Yeah,
in order, right? And that's really, and that's oftentimes why I think some of the leagues that are run at, local places, community centers, whatever, libraries, McDonald's even, like, those are run by people who, like, are doing it because they love Pokemon, right? People who are running, and I'm not saying like people at stores don't love Pokemon, right? And don't want Pokemon players to be there, but like usually someone who's running the Pokemon League at a store is doing it because it's their job. It's not because they
yeah,
love Pokemon and want it to be there. Now they may love Pokemon and they may want it to be there, but you understand what I'm saying? Like they're doing it
yeah.
there because that's like what they're being paid to do. Like that's part of like what their role is as their job, like what they, do to make a living as opposed to like just because they love it, just because they want it to be a thing.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to talking about like best of one, best two out of three. I remember like specifically now that I'm thinking about this. I went up to New Hampshire for a league challenge once. And first I went to a different store that was running league on that day. And then we went to a different store. Me and whoever I went up with went to a store that was running the challenge after that around like 4 p.m. And we get there. The league challenge is best two out of three, 40 minutes. So
Yep.
first off, best two out of three with 40 minutes is ridiculous in Pokemon. But the fact that it was starting at 4 p.m. and it was like there's a ton of people there. Like the store was not like overpacked, but it was full. So I was like, what is going on here? Why would you ever? And it's because like I remember talking to the store owner who was the tournament organizer and the league leader, and they just had no clue what was going on as far as that goes. Like they don't
Yep.
know that Pokemon tournaments going to take a little bit longer than something else like a Magic tournament in general. 40-minute best out of three does not work for Pokemon. I don't even know if it works for other games that well either, to be honest, like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever. But that's just not enough time to play best out of three, and no one wants to be there till midnight to finish a league challenge. Um, so the events moving after that, I'm pretty sure were like best of one, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But that was just I
Yeah.
remember showing up and I was like, this is ridiculous. We're gonna be here all night for a league challenge. Um,
There was
so
a
yeah, I
store in
think
North Carolina this weekend that ran a best of 3 week challenge that started at 4 p.m. So it's really
oh
funny
my
that you bring that up.
gosh.
I
At
considered
least
going.
hopefully they did
I
50
can
minutes at least.
I
Hopefully
was
they did
thinking
50 minutes
about
at least.
going, but then I looked and saw that it started at 4 p.m. I saw it was best of 3 and I decided I just wasn't going to make the drive. It wasn't like super close or anything like that, but
Yeah. I think as far as
um
like competitiveness goes, best out of three is better, right? And
yeah.
theoretically, we'd even want best three of five, best four of seven. Like the more games you play,
Yep.
the more time the better players are gonna come out on top. But for a local tournament with not that much on the line, maybe if you're doing like a bigger tournament, like a 1K or even like a 5K, and you're making your cups into like a bigger deal,
Yeah.
starting them earlier, like 9 a.m., I can see an argument for best two out of three in like a League Cup 1K situation. But when you're running like a League Challenge, League Cup with pretty standard pricing or reasonable pricing compared to the entry fee, best out of three is just awful. I just like I can't ever see that. Like no one wants to spend like no one wants to feel have a fully drained day of playing Pokemon for like 9 hours, because once you're
To
pushing for
get
top eight,
to
it's
get
like takes
9
forever.
packs.
Yeah, like challenges and custom best of three is literally terrible unless you're doing making it like a bigger event, like I said, a 1K, a 5K, whatever you want to do, and you're starting it early. Then I can see an argument for best out of three for league cups. I don't think challenges should ever be best out of three. I think that's always kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's such a
Uh,
time investment. I always like a nice
So
casual 3 hour league challenge. It always feels nice to just like get out of there and go do something else for the rest of the day.
yeah, I think a large part of that, people, so like you mentioned, best of 3 is better for just like from a competitive stance, right? The better player is going to come out more often than not. You're going to cut down on the variance, right? Which for a competitive game is what you want to achieve ideally. But it's just not practical, especially for cups and challenges, because so like a lot of stores, and especially like stores that have like popped up over the last couple of years, that this is like the first rotation that they're going to be running these events, right? Because they didn't exist before the pandemic, but when we had leagues and challenges and cups beforehand, cups and challenges draw people from across your state, right? Sometimes even out of your state. People come travel to these events because it's the only way for them to get championship points that weekend if there's no regional championships, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to get people coming from really, really far away, and you're going to turn people off of wanting to come drive 2 or 3 hours to your store if they know that they're going to not be getting home until like 2, 3 a.m. because the tournament's going to go until midnight. So that's a part of it as well. But like for so many people like who are like this guy you talked to at this store who was running the best of three league challenge or whatever that started at 4 p.m. Um, for them, like, if they're just thinking of it in terms of their store, their local community. So they probably run their little best of one locals that don't give out CP and have 10 or 15 people at them at the most, right? So they're like, okay, this is our bigger tournament. We're just gonna bump it up a little bit since it's our bigger tournament, but they don't consider the fact, oh, people are gonna drive from like 30
Yeah.
minutes an hour, 2 hours away potentially to come play in these things. Um, so yeah, I think best of one is just kind of the way to go for the local tournaments personally as well. But, I totally agree with your point. If you wanna and I think it's awesome when stores take their league cups and turn them into bigger things, like a win a case or a 1K or even a 5K, like whatever. Anything you can do to draw more players, give a little more competition to it. But I do think when you put those bigger prizes on the line, it makes more sense for it to be best of 3.
Yeah, and also, but start early. Like, gotta start early. Yeah, because you have a lot of people coming from, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure someone would make the argument. Well, if I'm driving 2 hours, I want that much better of a shot at getting top eight. But I
Sure,
think
sure.
on average, I mean, for me, I think best out of three cups have always been pretty a miserable experience. I think the majority of people that sentiment I think holds true for the majority of people. And even if you do bad in a best of one league cup because you went 1 and 2, and maybe you would have won the other two games if you had played a best 2 out of 3, whatever, your day's not over with, right? But if you're sitting there for like a best 2 out of 3, you have so much more time sunk into it, and you don't have to wait as long for your friends to finish or whatever it might be, even if they
Yeah.
go further in the tournament. So, um, yeah, if you didn't have anything else to say on that, let's talk a little bit about, because I have some stuff to say on this, but I'll see if you have anything first. Like prepping for a local tournament versus something bigger like a
Yeah.
regional. But like, is there anything specific that you feel like stands out as something to do different locally?
Yeah.
Cups challenges.
Yeah, so I mean, you wanna prepare similarly, but when it comes to as far as like, practicing your deck, right? You want to like make sure you're comfortable and familiar with what you're wanting to play. But I think that metagaming is almost more important at
Yeah.
league cups than it is at regionals, right?
Well,
Because
it's
you're
just like a
going
higher
into a
higher ceiling to
regionals.
take advantage of, right? There's a higher ceiling
Yeah.
to take advantage of metagaming.
Yeah. So, like, if you're going, it's a lot easier to try to predict what 50 people are going to play than what 1,500 people are going to play. Right. And
Yeah,
especially if you're going to a lot of league cups in the same area, you kind of know, all right, these local players, I know what this person likes to play. I know what this person likes to play. You can kind of make predictions knowing what you're expecting to see in the field. And if you know no one in this store likes to play, like, I don't know, Mew, for example. If no one in this area likes to play Mew, then you don't need to play Drapion in your Lost Box deck that you normally would play Drapion in, right? Because
yeah,
you're very unlikely to play against Mew. Now, um, those type of calls, right? One card differences in best of one settings as well can make all the difference to help you pull out ahead. So I think metagaming is incredibly important. Try to get there a little early, maybe take a little peek, see if people are playing games a little early, see what kind of the local player base is rocking with, what kind of decks they have, and maybe try to make a deck decision based off of that. I don't know. Do you do a lot of metagaming when you go to cups and challenges, or have you in the past whenever you like were taking them a little bit more seriously, maybe than you would this season?
like usually there will be some like meta shifts, like pretty drastically sometimes from like Saturday to Sunday cups when the majority of the same
Oh,
players
dude,
are going to
I
be
always
there.
loved that. That's so much fun, right?
Yeah, there's
Like
sometimes be like a
the
major
city
meta shift.
marathons and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that stuff would always be fun to see like the meta shifts throughout like a city's marathon. But yeah, sometimes there'd be pretty big meta shifts from one day to the next Saturday into Sunday, like back to back cups. And the big thing that I would always think about is like if the same like one thing you'll know if you play like in the local scene for a little while, you'll know the people who are most likely to make top 8, right? Like, you'll just see the same names, same faces, always making top 8, and if you just know what they're playing, let's say Timmy, Bob, and Joe always make top 8 at, like, every local cup they go to, and if they all play Mew, I'm probably playing a Drapion, right? If they show up and I show up, I don't have a Drapion on my deck yet, I'm probably putting a Drapion in my deck for the most part,
Sure.
right? So, not just so much like because even if because if sometimes you don't really care too much about the whole player base, right? Because not all of them are going to make top 8, but you do know there's going to be some of the better players in the area who consistently make top 8. And if you just know what they're playing, like if they bring the same, if you think they're bringing the same deck back to back days, like Saturday into Sunday, saw them play Mew yesterday, think they'll play Mew again today. You know, don't be afraid to put a Drapion in your deck for that reason, right? But yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. There's definitely is like a little bit more you can do, a little bit higher prediction you can make on local levels with that for sure of what the general player base plays. Like sometimes there's decks that just like are like kind of mid in the format, like Lost Zone Tina, but maybe it's just like a big deck locally, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe everyone locally just loves Lost Tina. And
Yeah.
sometimes you see stuff like that where like a deck is like in a regional setting, it would be like 5% of the meta, but at local setting, it's like 20% of the meta or 30% of the meta, right?
Yeah.
They're like that's not uncommon. So knowing that, teching against that, playing a different deck around that, and then playing around what you think maybe the best players will show up and play is like always something to like. You may as well take advantage of it because it's there. So always things to kind of look out for as far as that goes.
Yeah, so I think metagaming is like, yeah, it's almost more important at because like at regionals and stuff, like you could, it's still important to predict like what meta share you think decks are going to have, but at the end of the day, it's like you might predict Mew to be a 10% deck, but you still could play 3 of them day 1, right? That's just and that sure can happen in a local tournament, but it's just much less like when with a smaller field, you have a much easier time kinda trying to condense your choices down. So, I think a lot of players one thing that I think is great, like, in cups and challenges, this is what they're meant for, right? It's gonna be a lot of players' first time competing in a Pokemon tournament. Like their first taste of like competitive Pokemon will be at a local cup or a challenge. Maybe their first time playing against a player who's gotten their world's invite as opposed to just playing at their locals and stuff. And I think that's one of the things that makes Pokemon unique and is really cool is like you can have someone who's just picked up the game in the last few months playing against someone who's gone to worlds multiple times in the past. That's, I think a really cool aspect of our game. And we touched on this a little bit a couple weeks ago, I think, when we initially talked about cups, but it's definitely something I think worth mentioning. And that's regards to like um, people feeling like they deserve the championship points that are given out at league cups, right? Just because you are chasing your world's invite and the person who's a normal locals at that store isn't chasing their world's invite does not mean that you deserve to get the win more than them. And that's something that I feel like comes up often enough at league cups and challenges where it's like, people will be shuffling up for that last round and the little conversation comes up, "Oh, you're going for your world's invite? How much CP do you have?" Those little questions and stuff like that is almost like kind of attempting to coerce the person into, like, being willing to give you the win if it comes to it at the end of the game, right?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. And I think like the main thing to remember is yeah, you don't deserve to get your world's invite. You can earn it. You can work for it. And especially the person sitting across from you owes you nothing in any kind of situation. So you should never
Yeah.
feel you should never you should never pressure your opponent into seeding or tying or whatever it might be at the cost of your own hopefully morals and in the in the hopes to gain some CP. And you should never feel pressured to have to concede or tie or whatever it might be to someone who is, who maybe if they beat you, they do get their world invite. But it doesn't really matter if you beat them and you want to go on to the next round of the tournament. You got to win. So don't feel bad or pressured. Like the world invite is definitely the way everyone should look at it is worlds and something invite is something that you should definitely earn. And
Yeah.
you shouldn't give it to someone for free unless you want to. Like if you're playing against someone and if you don't
Yep.
really gain anything and don't care about going further in the tournament and you conceding to your opponent will make you happier to give them their invite, then you should. That's fine. It's 100% fine to do that. But you definitely shouldn't feel pressured or awkward or feel like you need to, give them that win.
Yeah.
So
We're
definitely,
absolutely not saying, like, you should never concede to someone. Like, if you have a friend who they need this win to get their world's invite and, it would be happy for you to see them make that happen, by all means, do what makes
Of
you
course,
happy.
yeah.
But what we're talking about is not feeling like, you sit down across from some super competitive player who's traveled from an hour or two away to come play in this locals that, you go to every single week. They sit down across from you and you start to feel intimidated and feel like, okay, this person obviously deserves the points more than me. That's not necessarily the case, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And like I'll talk about this a little bit too. So like I for my Worlds invite in 2017, I don't remember if I told this story a couple weeks ago because we did kind of talk about this, but I don't think I did tell the story. So I needed at NAIC in 2017 to get top 256 in order to get my Worlds invite. And what it came down to was the last round. I was 4-3-1 going into the last round, getting to 5-3-1. Maybe I needed top 512 or something. I don't remember what it was, but I just needed like whatever the lowest point. I needed some amount of points from NAIC to get my Worlds invite. Um, maybe it was like I don't know. I was like out of contention for day two, but I needed to win the last round to get my invite. I sat down across from my opponent and I did not say a word to them about it. I just sat down, I played my game, I won it out, and I got my Worlds invite. And my friends were nearby watching because our round almost went to time. And they all came up and like because they knew the situation, they're like, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got it." And everyone was kind of like sitting there celebrating. And my opponent even said, "Oh, you just got your Worlds invite?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did." And they congratulated me and they said, "If you had told me, I would have just given you the win." And I was like, I mean, it's just not about that, right? Like, you don't want to put that on your opponent, right? Put it in your
Yeah.
own hands to get the points you need in order to get your invite to the World Championships. Because at the end of
Were
the
you,
day, that's what's most important.
were you playing Mega Ray?
I was playing Mega Ray. Bro, don't get me started on that
That's I
tournament,
just
dude.
did. That's it.
I started 4-0, man. I started 4-0. I don't even remember what happened. It went downhill pretty quick.
All right. Well, I think that covers all the league talk, cups and challenges. It's all back. That's good to see, and happy to see it all back.
Yep, without a
And
doubt.
it's actually look one last thing that I'll mention. I feel like there's like a very funny duality in on Twitter each cup weekend where it's either you're really happy you won the cup, you top eighted the cup, you top four it. I got a little unlucky in the finals, and then there's 1-2 drop, and it's or or why did I show up to a cup, a best of one cup, LMAO.
Yeah.
And it's very few in between, like, went 4-2, had a good time at my local cup.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the list I played. It's either you won the whole thing or you didn't make top cut, and it's some like sarcastic, salty tweet about how you hate league cups or you hate best of one or something like that. So I thought that was funny. It's
Yep.
not a bad thing, but it's just a funny thing I've noticed now that cups are back and everyone's on Twitter.
Yeah, it's the people who play and love the game the most who also, for some reason, at the same time, seem to hate it the most, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before we get into everyone's favorite segment, guess that flavor text, we'll take just a little bit of a moment to thank our sponsor, Dragon Shield. So we do want to give a huge thanks to Dragon Shield for being a sponsor of the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products and accessories on the market, including sleeves, binders, deck boxes, and much, much more. One thing I wanted to talk about this week were the Dragon Shield cube shells. I kind of mentioned them last week, but it's a product that I use every single time I run my cube. It's a great and easy way to organize the packs so that whenever I sit down at the table to play with people, boom, we just open up the box and we're ready to go. The packs are already organized. We can start opening, start drafting right away, and get into the games as soon as possible. The cube shells um, are definitely something I'm a big fan of. I know Azul, you used them when you've drafted my cube before. Do you like the cube shells?
Yeah, the cube shells are sick. It's always nice. I mean, it's nice that I don't have to do any of the shuffling. Chip does it all, but it also like it adds a nice little level of like presentation for your cube. So definitely, if you're trying to take your cube to the next level, which a lot of people have been getting into in the Pokemon TCG, a lot of people have been getting into cubing. A lot of cubes out there. I actually kind of want to like try and find some more people to cube with and try some different cubes. 'Cause I've really only played your cube.
Yeah.
Like that's basically I can't even think of another cube I play. But yeah, if you're really trying to take your cube aesthetically to the next level, the cube shells are the way to go.
Yeah, so shout outs and thanks once again to Dragon Shield for being a sponsor. You can find cards or you can find sleeves and all kinds of accessories and stuff from them on their website, dragonshield.com/webshop/US or EU, depending on where you are located. Once again, that's dragonshield.com/webshop/US either US or EU. You can also find their products at your local card shops and many big box retailers. I know I've seen their sleeves in Walmarts and stuff like that in the past. So definitely be sure to check out Dragon Shield. And thanks once again to them for supporting us.
Almost got the sickness almost got you there. I feel like Chip, you were choking up a little bit there. You almost got you.
We're good, bro. We're good.
All right, let's move on to guess that flavor text. It is Chip's turn this week to pick a card for me. Guess the flavor text works by one of us picking a card for the other, and then we read the flavor text, and it's on the other co-host to try and guess which Pokemon that flavor text on that card belongs to. If you get it right immediately, without using a lifeline, you get 4 points. We had the first 4-pointer last week. Chip guessed
Let's
Indeedee.
go.
But you can use all or any of the 3 lifelines. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name off the card. All right, Chip, I'm ready. Hit me with this week's flavor text. You said it would be something you thought I would be able to guess,
I
but
think you can totally get this card
let's
as
get
well. So,
into
like,
it.
yeah, I'm way far ahead right now. So I wanted to give you something. I mean, I'm not going to give you a gimme. I've given you some gimmies
Yeah,
before
yeah.
that you've somehow found a way to get 0 points on.
Not, I don't know
Um,
if I've gotten 0 points. I've just gotten like 1
I
or
mean, I'm pretty sure
2.
you got 0 points on Deoxys, which was like maybe
Oh
one of the
yeah,
easier
true,
ones. You
true,
got
true.
zero
Okay,
points
yeah.
on Metagross, which was a pretty easy one.
No, that one was different. Go, just hit me with this one. Let's stop talking
Let's
about the
stop
points I
reminiscing on the
missed.
past. All right, all right, all right. Here we
How
go.
am I gonna get some points this week? What am I guessing?
All right. It starts off battles by attacking with its rock hard horn, but as soon as the opponent flinches, this Pokemon bites down and never lets go.
This sounds like really familiar to me. Um, I can't. I mean, it could be just Rhyhorn. Um, Rhyhorn has a horn, and then
It has a mouth.
Rhyhorn. Yeah, Rhyhorn evolves into Rhydon, right? And that revolves into Rhyperior. So it could be any of those,
Right
I
on one.
guess. What stage is the card?
All right. It is a basic.
I mean, I could just go with Rhyhorn, but it's Rhyhorn isn't like made of rock, so that's kind of making me second guess this a little bit, as it might not be Rhyhorn. I'm trying to think of other Pokemons with horns that are also like ground, rock, fighting,
Did you
whatever.
just say Pokemons?
Pokemon. Wait.
Cringe.
What is the newest? What is that one thing called that we just got? Great Tusk, but it's not a horn; it's a tusk, right? So it's probably not Great Tusk. I can't really think of anything else with a horn. I could do like one more lifeline here to be a little bit more sure, but it's a basic Rhyhorn. It makes sense. I can't think of another Pokemon with a horn
I
off the
think
top
you
of
should
my
use one
head.
more lifeline.
Oh, but Chip's giving me a little bit here. So we're gonna go with what set the card is from. I think that'll help me a little bit
Maybe a
more.
different lifeline. All right, that's fine. It is from Sword and Shield base set.
Sword and Shield base set. I'm still stumped on this one here. Pokemon with a horn, Sword and Shield base set. What has a horn? All right, give me an attack name.
Water gun.
Sheesh. Now I'm just really lost. So it's
I thought this might
water.
help you a little bit. The attack name.
Well, that does help me. It means it's not Rhyhorn, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a water Pokemon from Sword and Shield base set.
It starts off battles by
Basic.
attacking with its rock hard horn, but as soon as the opponent flinches, this Pokemon bites down and never lets go.
Oh, it could be. I mean, now it makes me think like Sharpedo, but I don't think it's. It could be no. But what is Sharpedo's
It's a basic.
Yeah, what is Sharpedo's basic? It's I don't know why I'm thinking of Sharpedo. Sharpedo has like a horn, doesn't it? Am I trolling? I might be trolling on that.
Mega Sharpedo, I think, has a horn.
Okay, so that wouldn't work. I have no clue, to be honest. Now I just have no clue. Now I should literally have no clue. I'm trying to think. Basic Pokemon has a horn. Sword and Shield base set. It has a horn. It's a water. So it's a turtle. Wait, is it the turtle? What is the turtle called? Dreadnought? It's Dreadnought, isn't it? Oh my. What does Dreadnought evolve from? It evolved from. Nope, not Tortuga. That's a different one. Dude, I literally have no clue. I have no clue what this is. I
What are
have
we
no
gonna
clue.
do here?
Water gun. What set the card is for? It's a Sword Shield base set. Basic water gun. It is. What a water Pokemon in Sword and
Oh
Shield.
my gosh. Are you just like forfeiting the point? What are we
I
doing?
guess, yeah, I just give up. I just literally I don't know.
You were so close, Azul.
What was it?
You're so close. The answer is
Choodle!
Choodle. It's
No!
Choodle,
Wait, what does Choodle
Azul.
evolve into?
Dreadnought.
So I was right. I couldn't think of his name.
Yeah, but it's
Who
like,
remembers Choodle?
bro, he's got the tooth. Look at that tooth. It bites, and he's got the horn. It
Yeah,
pokes.
he's got the horn. Yeah, but I don't remember. I was like Dreadnought's basic, but I don't remember what Dreadnought's basic was.
Maybe I threw you off by saying I thought you would be able to get this because I really thought you would. Because I remember Azul as a
That name
loyal
is
Azul
so hard.
GG, as a loyal Azul GG Twitch sub. I remember watching you play Sword and Shield on your Switch, and you caught a Choodle, Azul. So you don't
I
remember your partner
did.
Pokemon,
Yeah, but
and
I
that's
didn't leave it
disappointing.
named Choodle though.
You
Named
didn't leave
something
it
else.
named Choodle.
Yeah, so I wouldn't remember. That's just such a hard name to remember. Like those letters have never been formed in that way before, ever. Besides now, this is it. This is the first time those letters have ever been formed. No one's
He's
ever
a
thought of
Choodle.
chew.
It's a turtle that chews, bro. It's pretty easy.
That's not a thing. Well, it is a thing, but that's
It
not.
is if it's Choodle. It is if
This
it's
is
Choodle.
fake. Choodle's fake.
Better luck next week, Azul. Actually, better
Well,
luck
in 2
in
weeks. 2
2
weeks.
weeks.
Hopefully, you don't get too
Yes.
far ahead. All right, but let's move on. We got some not announcement. It was just like kind of Pokemon doesn't really announce these things. They just kind of appear on
Yeah,
the tournament pages,
that
and
is a
you just
little
have to hope someone
ridiculous.
checks it in time. But thankfully, someone checked it in time because these tournaments don't happen until sometime. Actually, they're in May. Imagine if no one checked. They're in May, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have some special events that were just released that are coming up in May. This is like 3 weeks. Imagine if no one checked the tournament page and they just had the tournaments happened and no one showed up. No, I mean they would probably get out there by other means, but
Yeah.
some special events. Are all these are new, right?
Yeah, none of these existed before. So we've got 3 Latin America special events for the TCG, one that is just for VG, one taking place in Bogota, Colombia on May 14th, one on May 20th in Argentina, and one May 27th to 28th in Peru. So that's interesting. It's a 2-day special event. A lot of times the
Oh yeah,
special
I didn't
events
even
are
notice
just
that.
like 1-day events, but they're probably just expecting this one to be decent size. So that maybe that's like they're predicting like a bit more like attendance for this one potentially.
Yeah,
But yeah, so 3 special events scheduled. There's another one in Colombia, but just for VG, and it's actually at like the same
it's the same.
location
Yeah,
just 2 weeks later. So I wonder if there's like a space issue maybe at this venue, so they couldn't run TCG or VG, or maybe it's like a staffing issue, right? They don't have enough people to
yeah. So I had to
in
be some kind of
Colombia,
issue.
local judges or whatever. But yeah, I mean, first off, first reaction, I'm very glad to see that there's more tournaments happening for the Latin America players, giving them more of a chance to get points necessary for their world's invites. I wish that maybe they would do something for the Oceania region because they have nothing for the rest of the year. Like they are done. However
Yeah,
many
they're
points they
cooked.
have, they're done. And
Don't they usually have special events?
nope,
So they usually don't have like a special event in
I
Oceania, or is it
don't
usually always
think so.
regionals?
I don't
Interesting.
think so.
You should give. Well, yeah. So is that it? Like if we go to the leaderboard right now,
So
is
I think let's be clear on like kind of I think the reason that there are special events versus regionals in a lot of these places is not because of like not giving out prize money. I think it's
that's
more
true. That's true.
about the fact of like the laws for these specific countries. So I think like, and that's why we
Well,
see them in
no,
Europe a
they've
lot of the time,
the.
right?
I mean, I saw this on Twitter recently too with the special events coming out. It's based on basically Pokemon sales, or not. It's like somewhat based on Pokemon sales in the area. Like if they think that's worth putting that much money into something like a regional, when they don't
Yeah.
think that many people are going to show up to the
I don't
tournament.
know. I think there's a lot of theories out there about why there is and why there isn't. I've always heard that
I've
it's
definitely seen
about.
that before, and I saw it recently with these being announced.
Yeah, but like, what's your source, right? Is it just Jimmy Bob Joe on Twitter, right? Like,
I forget who it was this time around. It might have been. I don't want to say any names because I don't know who it is for sure. It
yeah,
is, but
yeah. It's all good.
How many points do the Oceania players need for their invite?
150,
Wait, that's it?
I think.
Sheesh, we're cooking. Okay, they have more invites than I thought. I'm just like curious. Like we already know the invites then, right?
They need no,
Have-
sorry, they need 200.
Oh, okay. So we have 26 invites right now. I just looked on the leaderboard. I don't know if this is including EUIC. I don't know how much that changes um the outcome, but they need 200.
UIC should be included because Alex has his points on the leaderboard.
Okay. So Henry Henry Brand is 10 points short right now. So Henry, I know Henry's going to
I
like
did see Henry on Twitter say that he was going to,
Fresno.
yeah, Fresno, and I
Yeah.
wonder if
So
that might be why, right? I know
I mean, if he's going to Fresno, he's
he
going to
casted,
NAIC.
Sydney regionals instead of playing in it.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get there. He's got 2 events. I'm sure if he's going to Fresno, he's going to NAIC. So 2 decent events to get the invite out. We'll
Yeah,
probably clean it up
Henry will
at
get there.
Fresno. Yeah. A couple people at 190, 180s. I see some 180s. I wonder how many of these people are actually going to try for their invite at this point. Um,
Yeah. Probably not a bunch unless there was, like, another tournament there.
yeah,
Um,
it's definitely tough to
but
travel out of
I
there. It
if we
feels like
look in,
yeah,
Latin America, they also need 200 points, and we're sitting at I'm gonna increase the number of names. Currently, 'cause I think before this, they have 1 more regionals coming up in May, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. I think
But
they have at least one
currently they're
more.
sitting at 33 players with an invite, and the Latin America region is much, much larger than the Oceania region as far as just,
Yeah.
like, player base wise, how big their events usually are, so, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's just overall good that
Oh,
there's
there'll be
more
cups and
tournaments,
challenges too.
more
I forgot
chances,
about
and
that.
yeah, of course, we do need to remember that. Oh, yeah, that's also a really good point, right? Cups and challenges will be another way for players, of course, to get those last few points necessary.
Yeah.
But yeah, with this information being released, kind of an interesting discussion I saw brought up that it feels like this discussion happens at least once a year around special events is the discussion of players traveling to compete in them from outside of that region, right? So, for anyone who doesn't know, regional championships, special events, international championships, none of these tournaments, even league cups and league challenges, none of these tournaments are locked to any player's specific region. So, you theoretically, Azul, could travel to anywhere in the world to play a league challenge if you wanted to. You could go to literally any tournament in the world. You could go to any special event. You could go to any internationals and eventually lead into your world's invite. So something that has happened in the past a lot with these Latin America special events is a lot of American stipend chasers, not even necessarily people who are just trying to get their invite. A lot of American stipend chasers would go to these special events in order to try to cash in on a bunch of points at smaller tournaments in order to try to snowball their stipends for future international championships. So, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, the top 16 players in each quarter get a stipend to the following international championship. The top 4 players in each region at the end of each quarter get a travel award to each international championship. So, um,
And the goal is to get like I mean, spending to get $1,000 stipend for one IC wouldn't make too much sense. But the final goal is to end up with in top 16 for Worlds,
right.
which like those points would count towards as well. So it's all about you go there, you get the stipend to then go to the IC, then you go to the IC, you get more points at the end of the
Yeah.
year. You're hopefully in top 16 for Worlds, which means you get to the day 2 invite. Um, and I do think it is. I mean, it's people who have been playing for stipends and travel awards and getting to top 16 at the end of the year in North America. This is for North America, by the way, as well. Like top 16s for North America, EU is like 22 and so on. Um, but yeah, it definitely is abused, right? They definitely go out of their way to go to these smaller events that give out the same amount of CP as regionals. And the discussion that has come up before is should tournaments be region locked? But I guess one argument, and I think that's a bad argument to make. I don't because I like the fact that some of the Europeans come to some of the North American regionals. I want to go to a
Mhm.
European regional next season, and you have people like Pablo and Gustavo are probably the 2 most notable names coming from Latin America to play in the North American or next not North American, but American and Canada because Pablo lives in Mexico, which is North America. So that I guess that was always found a little bit weird. But yeah, Mexico part of the
Yeah.
Latin America region. Is it called wait, is our region North America? What is the
It is North America. 'Ca North America and Canada, but it doesn't
yeah,
include Mexico for some reason.
yeah,
Yes.
North
No,
America
it
and
does
Canada?
sorry, it does say US and Canada. It does
Oh,
say US and
okay. The
Canada.
region is US and Canada. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't actually ever know that. I never like thought, but all right, I guess I always call it NA region. Yeah, I always call it NA, but it's not North America because Mexico doesn't count. But yeah, I think it's cool that you know, uh, Latin American players, EU players, region players, uh, come to North American events and can play them. I think that's cool. I think it's cool that we could theoretically go over to like we saw Alex Szymanski get second at one of the European regionals this year as well. I thought that was cool, right? Like all that
Yep.
stuff is cool. Obviously, the ICs are going to stay fully international. I think the only thing you could make an argument for I don't think you should ever region lock all events, but I think you could make an argument for region locking special events. But the purpose of a special event, I don't think, is purposely so that that region has more access to championship points. I think it's just for areas that the people want to try and run a larger event. Because I even saw at the beginning of the season, um, who's behind the Pokey? They used to run a lot of online tournaments, and at the beginning of the year, they were talking about trying to get a special event for Cancun put together. Um, and they were tweeting about it. It didn't happen because they did a follow-up tweet later in the year, not too long ago, where they're like, "It's not gonna happen." But it sounds like you just have to be able to go to Pokemon and be like, "I want to run a special event here," and then you have to, like, prove that it's worth it for Pokemon to allow you to do it, and then I think they let you do it. It's what it seems like based on
I
those
don't know.
tweets.
I don't think that
Um,
that's
but
ha
I have no idea how it works,
I don't think
but
it's good for us to speculate on how it works because we don't
okay,
know
let's
for
not
sure how it
speculate.
works. Yeah, yeah.
But, I don't think like special events are purposely for to try and give more points to a region or anything like that. Um, it seems to be a multitude of reasons, if anything. But I feel like you maybe could region lock special events, but I don't think you would ever want to see like regionals and stuff or other tournaments. I guess maybe challenges and cups, but even those, it doesn't make any sense to region lock.
Yeah, so there was, like, a little bit of this back and forth on Twitter today between Andrew Hedrick and, Pablo Meza Tablemon, where Andrew was pointing out, while special events are great to give LATAM players a fair chance at an invite, it seems unfair that players from other regions can travel to them to earn the same amount of championship points as a regional competing against likely far less players. Why are SPEs not region locked? And Pablo brought up that this is something we go over all the time. Why are regionals not region locked? Every time I go to the US, I take away points from a US player, right? And that's kind of the crux of the argument, right? Is like if some of these tournaments are going to be region locked, should they all be region locked? And I don't think they necessarily should. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that our game is so global, right? And I think at the end of the day, you have to wonder how do the local Latin America players feel, right? I mean, some of them probably are maybe a little grumpy at the fact, oh, these if and because realistically, what is happening more often than not, and where most of the time this discussion comes up is when you have a North American player who is a day two chaser or a stipend chaser traveling to a 30-person special event to try to get 200 championship points if they win or 160 if they get second um, towards their day two invite or their stipend or whatever, and they're theoretically taking a lot of points away from someone in that local region. And that's really the most often where this comes up. But I wonder if, like, maybe the players participating in the event think it's cool that now they get a chance to play against a world class player traveling from America to come down and play in their event, right? There's probably people on both sides of the coin, I would imagine,
Yeah, I've only
at these
ever
tournaments.
heard I feel like I only ever hear this complaint from I don't feel like I ever hear about this complaint from the players who are locally at the event. So if you're someone who's like locally at some of these smaller SPE events, and have you been to some of the past where some big name North American players show up? What is the local response to that? Are they excited to have a player of that caliber show up to come to their event to play and compete, or is it kind of one of those things where it's like they show up like, well, now we're just going to potentially end up with less points, right? Does that kind of just kind of suck that
Yeah.
a top world class player showing up to like just kind of take points from you, or is it, or do you guys like the fact that they showed up? Like, I'm curious for anyone who's like in those scenes, if there's anyone listening who's in those scenes, goes to those special events, not this year, but like in prior years, a while ago. Yeah, what's kind of the local vibe when that
Yeah.
happened? I'd be very curious to know. But if
Another
you look
side
at
of
it,
this as well another side of this as well,
go
and it
ahead.
it probably leads in more to why, Andrew is tweeting this. I mean, if we look at the North American leaderboards right now, Andrew is 18th on the leaderboard, right? So, like, he's someone who's right there in the day 2 contention race, and now this gets announced that there's these tournaments that are happening that are gonna give out all this CP, and, now he has a choice to either, like, shell out the money and try to go to these events himself potentially, or, um, ignore them and hope that his finishes at the rest of the North American tournaments are gonna be enough to get him into that top 16, right? So, it's
And he's
not
potentially
only.
competing against people who will be going to those special events as well.
Right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. That's where I saw it though. If you scroll down to Pablo's tweet, that's where I saw the. Unless you don't want to speculate any further, the SPs are events for regionals that don't have the sales to justify regionals. I wonder if that's sales in terms of like Pokemon cards sold in the region or like expected ticket sales. And maybe it's just entry sales, right? But I've heard
I mean,
that.
I
I've heard
think
that
I think
a
people
couple
have
times.
discussed it people have discussed it multiple ways, right? And it's like,
That's
I
the
feel
one
like
consistent one
we're
I've
just
heard
playing a big
though.
old game of telephone here, bro. It's like he said, she said, they like
Chip's not
whoever
trying to
said
commit
this,
to
and
the.
like we get down this line, and like someone is. I just don't know where the information comes from. I don't want to say anything as factual unless we know it from
I'm
Pokemon,
not saying
right?
it's facts. We're just. I just saw the tweet. I thought it'd be interesting. It's like that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I've seen consistently is that
But we're
one.
providing information and, like,
Yeah, but I
our
feel like
opinions based on
it's
it,
not
right? And, like
but we're not providing anything that's like malicious. Nothing malicious is happening. We're just curious. We're curious as to why. I don't think anything malicious comes of this. The
yeah.
the the only argument that is happening still is just between should they be region locked, should they not? Um, I think you never want to region lock everything. I could see an argument for SPs specifically being region locked. I don't think that but it would only ever be special events. I don't think anything besides special events should be region locked. But even then, keeping them open. Once again, I'm curious about the local vibes. How do the local players feel about, you know, namely, this is just Latin America special events where big name North American players come down to play in them. Yeah, what is the local vibe? If anyone is in those local scenes, what is the local vibe when that happens? I'm curious.
One thing I'll say as well is I was kinda looking at some past Latin America special events over on Limitless, and a decent amount of them, like, if we just scroll through, like, there are plenty that have been won by American players over the years, but, I mean, if we look at the locations of these 3 tournaments, right, there's one in Colombia, one in Argentina, one in Peru. If we look at all the Peruvian and, Argentina tournaments, like, there's very few, if any, North Americans in any of these top cuts, right? It's mostly Latin America players because it's a lot more expensive to get all the way down to those countries. You know, they're a lot farther south in South America than in Colombia, which is kind of more Central America. It's like at the north part of South America, right? So
Mhm.
Colombia, I think, is actually like not super expensive to get to from the US, from a lot of, especially if you live in like Florida or maybe Texas, somewhere like that. It's like not super expensive to get to those. So, I mean, I do expect at least for the Colombian special event, we'll probably see a decent amount of Americans show up. I would be pretty surprised to see too many people from outside of Latin America traveling to Argentina and Peru.
Might happen though. You never know.
It might happen. It might happen. I mean, but like, I don't know, you must really need that day 2, right? That really need that day 2 spot to spend $1,000 on your flight to go to Peru just to have a chance, right? To play
Yeah,
in
also
a
that's not a I think also to kind of like talk a little bit to that, a little bit to the players out there who are maybe thinking about it. Like if you spend those extra 3 days prepping for day one of Worlds, you'll probably just from day one to day two. So like
yeah.
instead do something now that'll free up more time later when it comes towards leading up towards Worlds. And then just spend those extra 72 hours or however many days it takes to get to Peru and back, and then just spend that extra time prepping for day one of Worlds. And you'll probably make it from day one to day two. You'll be all right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's just a bit of a topic that it does feel like comes up every year. Azul, have you ever traveled down to any special events in Latin America or anything like that?
I only ever went to the only thing I ever went to as a like a I guess a Latin America event would be I went to Mexico regionals 2 years in a row.
Mhm. That's
The
different though
last
because
two
it's a
times they had it.
regionals, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't think
And
I
it's
would ever just
also
like
in North
the
America.
yeah, the potential like it is in North America, technically in North America. The expected return from like a special event is just so low. Like you don't really win any money. Like I think the last one that I remember was like when last one time I remember seeing the prizes from a special event, it was like a case, I think. Like that's like the most you're gonna get if you win. So yeah, the expected
Yeah.
return is just too low. So and it's also just like I like the bigger tournaments, right? Like the 9 rounds, day two, 5 to 6 rounds, top eight. You know, I just like the that much like the more competitive, uh, bigger tournament atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I haven't done it yet. And not that I wouldn't, especially something like I mentioned, like that potential Cancun special event or whatever. Like if there was a special event in Cancun, that's like you can make a vacation out of that, right? Like that's a little bit
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
So, but like yeah, going to just somewhere where I don't really know that well or I'm not that familiar with the local what's called, it's hard to make like a
Mhm.
do much more with it. So yeah, not yet, but who knows what the future holds.
Yeah,
No
if
plans.
Azul I mean, I think you're kinda locked this year. What are you you're at
I mean, even if I wasn't locked, I wouldn't go. I could be like
1,300 championship points, Azul, right
I
now?
could be 1 point away from top 16, and I don't think I would go to a special event, to be honest. I just don't. It's just I don't care
Really?
about it that much.
1
Yeah,
point?
yeah, 1 point.
I think that's cap. I think that's easy to say right
All
now.
right,
I
fine.
think
If you want to pay for me, then Chip, I'll go.
I mean,
You pay
no,
for me.
but I think you would.
All right, but I think that's gonna do it. I think unless
Yeah.
you have any other thoughts, go ahead and send us home, Chip.
Yeah, that is gonna do it for this week's episode. A little bit of a shorter episode, but with Portland Regionals just a couple weeks away, don't worry, we'll be back to a normal length episode next week, most likely. Thanks so much to everyone for listening. We did just recently pass 5,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. So big shout outs to everyone who's subscribed here on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. Why not? It's free, right? Just click that little button. It's super easy, super fast. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you catch your podcasts, please be sure to drop us a rating, a review. It goes a long way in helping more people discover the podcast and getting our voices into more people's ears. That I started talking before I kind of thought how that sentence was going to come out, and I don't really like what happened there, but here we are.
I appreciate the support. So, you know what? You mentioned there's a lot of people who are watching who aren't subscribed. I wonder how many people are watching who don't even have a YouTube account. Is that a number? Is that a statistic? I never see anyone mention that.
Who just
It's
goes
like,
out
should
there
we
and
be,
like,
yeah, should we be mentioning first make a YouTube account and then subscribe? Should we, is there like a percentage?
surely
Like, is there a
not.
percentage breakdown for that? I don't know. 'Cause they say
Someone
like
just
what, like,
literally every Tuesday morning goes on YouTube and types in the podcast on like their guest account, right?
well, I'm just wondering
Like,
how many people come across it just like randomly.
not
Cause
even
like
logged
the
in.
stat is like 40% of people are subscribed usually that are watching the video, right? I think that's the stat. But what if it's like 40% are subscribed, 40% aren't subscribed but have a YouTube account, and 20% don't even have a YouTube account. So if you don't have a YouTube account, go make a YouTube account and then subscribe. If you do have a YouTube account, subscribe. Appreciate the support as always. Good luck in your local cups and challenges this weekend if you're playing in any. And we'll catch y'all next Tuesday, 7 a.m. Eastern. Peace.